Hello, dear friends, and welcome to another episode of Life of Love, where we gather weekly to explore creativity and inspiration. And today we have a very special guest, Dave Albin, and he has a legacy of helping people stretch beyond their wildest dreams to get tribal. And I'm going to let him explain that. And part of living a life of joy is doing things you would never expect to do, or doing things that are outside your comfort zone, and having the curiosity to see how this could happen. So this man has conquered many things in his life, addictions, and he's come out on the other side, and he has many stories to tell. Dave, welcome to Life of Love.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks for having me. It's an honor. Absolutely.
It's my honor too. Thank you for being here, and I'm holding space for all this. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Awesome. Well, my dad used to say, start at the beginning. It's always the best place to start. And so how I got here, to at least to this place in time where I'm in the podcasting world and in the world of corporate team building and life-changing paradigm shift experiences. 2 months before I was born, Julie, my dad, my biological father, we don't know exactly what happened, or at least I never found out. He did something to his head. He hit his head, and to save his life, they put a plate in his head. Well, it also took his life, because apparently it was a very, very painful day-to-day part of his life, having that plate in his head. And so he complained to my mom all the time that it hurt, and he didn't know how much longer he could take it. And 2 months before I was born, he told her he was going to the grocery store, and we never saw or heard from him again. So we're not 100% sure that he committed suicide, but my mom felt that was what happened. And so when I was born to a single mom. She already had 2 other boys from another man, and she was living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Hollywood, California. So she was there with my grandmother, her 2 other sons, myself, and another cousin. So there were 6 of us living in this 1-bedroom apartment. And mom was working at the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood, really well-known hotel. And mom, she knew how to work hard. She was doing the best she could. She was a product of the Great Depression. She was 8 kids in the family. She was the youngest, and they knew hard work. I mean, anyone that grew up in the Great Depression knew hard work, right? You had to farm, you had to sew your own clothes, you had to pretty much do everything, and that family was no different. And she was also known as Rosie the Riveter, which meant that what a lot of people don't realize about the baby boomers and their parents is that they literally saved the world. The men of that era were fighting. My dad, for example, that raised me, was in Europe fighting the Nazis. My best friend's dad was in Pearl Harbor fighting the Japanese. So while the men were overseas fighting the war, guess what the women were doing? They're
working in the factories.
They were
right?
doing everything.
Everything.
Literally, this idea that women had to prove themselves in the workplace happened a long time ago, because without them, we would have lost the war, because women were here in America building Jeeps and tanks and rifles and ammunition. And my mom was known as Rosie the Riveter, which just meant she built airplanes. She was working for McDonnell Douglas up on a wing, driving rivets into the wing. So they understood hard work. And so mom tried really hard. She was really trying as hard as she could, but she had a lot of mouths to feed. And she got to a point where she couldn't do it. And she knew it. So she did a very, very loving thing. She went to her oldest sister, Pat, and said, Pat, will you adopt David? And Pat and Bob Albin, my aunt and uncle at the time, said, yeah, absolutely. And so at 5 years old, I moved from Hollywood, California to Long Beach, California. And now I'm living with Pat and Bob. Now, I don't know any of this, right? I don't know what happened or what was going on. I was too young. All I know is that I literally walked into the perfect lifestyle.
Hmm.
Bob was a highly decorated officer in World War II. He was an officer in the Army and the National Guard. So we had a nice house, always had food on the table. We used to go camping all the time as a young kid. They would take me to Yosemite. They would take me
Mhm.
to Big Bear, Lake Arrowhead, Lake Havasu. We went all over the place. Well, on the first day of summer, 1960, Pat came in and said, "David, come into the kitchen. Your father and I need to speak with you." I walked in, sat down. My dad's here. My mom's here. She put her hand on my arm and she looked at me and she said, "David, what we need to tell you is we're not your parents." I'm 11. What does that mean? That's like walking out that's like walking outside and looking the sky is blue and go, the sky's not blue. Well, it looks pretty blue to me, you
Yeah,
know?
you guys are my parents. You're acting
Yeah,
like my parents. You're
yeah, right. You just said, "Come in. Your dad and I need to speak with you." So, what does that even mean? And then she went on. She went on to say, "Your Aunt Dean, yeah, that's actually your biological mother." And I remember thinking, I don't even like her. And the reason I didn't like her, and it's not that I didn't like her, it's just that every time she was around me, she wanted to be around me. She was always touching me, holding me, kissing me, hugging me. Well, duh, I'm her
just like
son, right?
yeah,
I said it was
right.
never inappropriate. It was just she was always, she wanted to be all over me. She was like right here, all the time when she was around me. And again, obviously, I was, I was her son. So any chance she got to be around me, she was going to take it full advantage of it, if you will. But again, I didn't know that until after the fact, right? Well, when they adopted me at 5, they had both sworn off drinking. And shortly after they told me that I wasn't their son, they both started drinking. And my life took a real hard turn.
Oh.
And Pat was not a violent drunk, but she nonetheless was still drinking. Bob, on the other hand, not so much. He was mean. He was nasty. He turned into not a very nice guy when he was drinking.
Hmm.
And one day they went to the store. Back in those days, you could leave your kids at home, right? You
Mhm.
just did. It was no big deal. You'd call the neighbor across the street and say, "Hey, Joanne, Bob and I are going to the grocery store. David's home. If he needs anything, can he come knock on the door?" Yeah, sure,
Mhm.
of course. Tell him to come over now. I'll fix him a fried bologna sandwich. And so
I
they went,
remember those with
right?
the really gooey white bread.
That gooey white bread and little mayo and mustard. Yeah.
Oh mayo. It
Oh
would
man,
balloon up in the pan like
it
a
would
dome.
curl up, right? You had to flatten it out. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, so good.
Um,
Don't touch this stuff now, but oh man.
yeah, right. Well, they were so good back then, and like you said, now I wouldn't even think about having one.
Woo.
I won't
No.
even eat a hot dog anymore. Um, so they left and went to the grocery store. Well, I know where the booze is. They're hiding it right there in plain sight. And so I wanted to know what it was. What's happening? Why is it that when they drink this stuff, they turn into these horrible human beings? So I went
Mm.
over, grabbed it, set it on the table, took out a coffee cup, filled it up halfway, drank it. I'm 11. And it was like pouring rocket fuel in me. I never had a chance, Julie, ever. I
Mm.
was an alcoholic right on the spot. I started thinking alcoholically, acting alcoholically, and then that just started progressing. And I didn't want to be at home because when I was home, there'd be screaming and yelling, and Bob would come home, and I was I was a gatekeeper for him. She would drive me down to the local bar. I'd have to go in and get him out of the bar, and it was just ugly. There was no upside to it at all. Um, and by the time I was a junior in high school, like right at the very beginning of the school year, my junior year, they called me into the principal's office and said, "Albin, you're out." we're not going to deal with your shenanigans anymore.
Mm.
And so I'm cool with that.
You're like,
I didn't
well,
care. I could care less, because here's what my belief was: nothing you're teaching me is going to help me make money. I already had an entrepreneurial spirit. When Pat used to grow flowers in the backyard. She had a big L-shaped garden, if you will, and she could grow the most beautiful flowers you've ever seen in your life. And so what she would do, she'd grow those flowers, and she'd pick them, and she'd cut them at an angle, not at the bottom, at an angle, and it would open up more surface area for water to get in, right? And then she had such an eye for color. She would arrange them, put a rubber band around them for me. She'd put them in a bucket, and then she'd put 7-Up into that water. And it would cause the flowers to last 2 weeks. So my flowers would last longer than the local florist. She sent me out onto the street corner, and I started selling flowers on the street corner. And I was pretty good at it. The women never wanted to negotiate, but the men always did, right? They tried to take me, I think I was selling them for 50 cents a piece. And, they tried to talk me down. Well, I'll buy 2 for 75. I'm like, no, I won't do that. They're like, why? And I go, because the next guy that pulls up will pay me full price. So why am I giving them away to you? I'm not going to do that, right? And then I got a paper route, right? Now that's a full on entrepreneurial job, because you got to go ride your bike, right? You got to go pick up the papers, fold them, put them in your saddlebags, load it up on your bike, and then go, throw those papers and deliver them. And so, and you had to go collect the money. You had to do it all. So it's definitely, you needed an entrepreneurial spirit to do that. I also grew up right across the street from a golf course. And what I've learned about most golfers in America, they suck. They're horrible. And they would hit the balls out over the fence. Well, I'd go ride my Stingray bicycle around the perimeter of the golf course, and guess what I'd find? Little white things that turned into money. And so I would take those golf balls home. I'd clean them up. I'd go back to the golf course. I'd go in the trash, and they came in golf boxes and sleeves, right, in boxes. And I'd take those boxes, and then I'd put the golf balls in that box. You could put 12 in it at a time. And I'd segregate, the Max Flies, the Titleists, the Dunlops, the Wilsons, and then I'd go back into the parking lot and sell them back to the golfers. And so again, my belief was, there's money out there, go get it. And I learned that at a very young age. And so there was my belief system. And so when they kicked me out of school,
yeah, my inquisitive mind wants to try to understand how they were perfect parents for 6 years. And then when they told you that they weren't really your parents, that same year, they relapsed.
Well, in their defense,
why? Yeah.
I don't know. My hallucination is, Kennedy had just been assassinated in November of '63. My dad's military. He was working in the Pentagon. He would make trips. The Cuban crisis, the Bay of Pigs had been going on. All those missiles were in Cuba, and, the pushing of a button by the Russians. So there was a lot of pressure in that period there on my dad. And so I don't know, maybe the thought of him now, he's, knows that I know that he's not my dad. I don't know, Julie, I don't know. All I know is, they started drinking.
It was a pressure cooker.
It was a pressure cooker for them. And so once I got kicked out of school, I went and got a job, got a really good job. And I was kind of, I didn't want to be at home. There was no reason, because it was just, screaming, yelling, and fighting and carrying on, and conflict. And alcoholism is not pretty. There's nothing about it that's warm and inviting, that's for sure. So I started experimenting. I drank at 11, and it didn't stop. And so again, by the time I was a junior in high school, boom, you're out, Albin. And And again, I was good with that. Well, I'll just move this forward. By the time on June 8th of 1988, I've been married 3 times. The third wife was a bartender, and she had 3 kids, and I married her literally thinking that maybe becoming a stepdad would help me with my alcoholism. And unfortunately, it didn't. So when I woke up on June 8th of 1988, when I woke up that morning, I said, that's it. I'm done. I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore. And the only idea I had at the time to stop the pain was put a bullet in your head. I did. I loaded my pistol and I'm ready to do it. And I wasn't thinking about heaven or hell, or I didn't care about any of that. I'm in excruciating physical and psychological pain, spiritual pain as well. And I want it to stop, and it's going to stop that day, period. That was threshold for me. Well, as I'm thinking about pulling the trigger, I'm like, Dave, when you do that, those 3 kids upstairs that you love, your stepkids, you're going to kill them too. Because they're the ones that's going to live after you, and they're going to suffer through the cops coming and the morgue and the paper and the news and the school, and it's going to permeate all, like, that's wrong, man. You can't do that to them. You got to figure out another way, pal. And so the next thing I thought was call Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, you know what's interesting about that, Julie? I didn't know who AA was. I had no idea. I didn't know anybody in AA. I'd never been to an AA meeting. I knew nothing. Yet there was the thought. Where'd that come from? And so I called them, and I got this wonderful lady on the phone. And I affectionately nicknamed her Madge. And the reason I nicknamed her Madge is because she talked like this. She had a real scratchy voice. And I'm pretty sure she must have smoked 2 packs of Pall Mall non-filters a day. And so that's why she had such a raspy voice. Well, bless her heart. She's the gatekeeper. She's the one who will decide whether she calls somebody in AA to come pick you up. And she did. She called a guy by the name of Lauren and said, yeah, here's the address. Go pick this guy up. And so he got there to my house that morning, and he took me to an all-men's group of AA called the Stepping Stones Group of Alcoholics Anonymous in Fairfax, Virginia. And he stayed with me all day. I went to a 12:30, a 4:30, a 6:30, and an 8:30 meeting. And while I was there, at one of the meetings, they gave me the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And they opened it up to the front cover, and they signed it. And it said, before you take that first drink, call one of us. And they put their first name and their phone number. And they gave me that book, and I went home, and that was on day 1. Now, remember, I'm grossly addicted to heroin, cocaine, alcohol. I'm smoking like a chimney. I'm not taking care of myself. I'm in a tremendous amount of discomfort. Probably should have went to rehab, but they weren't even, there wasn't, the rehabs back in 1988 weren't fluent like they are today. And so the next morning at 8:00 in the morning, my phone rings, and it's John from AA. And he's like, hey, Dave, good morning. How you doing this morning? And I'm going, how do you think I'm doing? Are you kidding me? I want to kill somebody. And I might start with you, pal, for calling me at 8:00 in the morning. And he's like, John's a really fun guy. He's a really cool guy. And he's like, yeah. He goes, I hear you. He goes, look, man, last night we were talking. I know where you live. I'd like to come over. I'll pick you up. Let me take you to breakfast, and then I'll take you to another AA meeting. I'm like, okay. Right. And
you're like, what did I get into?
Right. It's like, but you know what I'm threatening him. Like, I'll kill your ass. Right. And yet here he comes and he picks me up. And that's how AA works. It's just unconditional love. Because we all know, we can all relate with each other. We know how much pain and suffering we've gone through. And the only thing that's really going to help another alcoholic, in my humble opinion, is another alcoholic who knows what you've gone through, who, when they look at you in the eyes and go, hey, I get it. I know how you feel, man. And they do, right? So we're congruent with that. So he came and picked me up. And 2 days turned into a week, and a week turned into a month. And at a month, they gave me one of these. and it said 1 month continuous sobriety. And then they gave me one at 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. And then they gave me one at 1 year. And this last June 8th, I picked up one for 35 years.
Oh.
So I lucked out with a thank you. I lucked
Yeah.
out, and I never had another drink or a drug after that point.
Wow.
Well, so what happened there was I had insomnia as I was getting sober. I was up late all the time. My sleep patterns were all over the place. And there I am at 3:00 in the morning one night, and I'm watching an infomercial from Gumpy Ranker. And there he is, Mr. Enthusiasm himself, right? A young Tony Robbins is selling personal power.
Personal
It's a 30-day program for total success, the man said. And so I listened to him, and I did not like him. I was like, he was all motivated, and I'm like, I can't stand the guy. He's pompous, and he's encouraging, and, I wanted nothing to do with it. But he said a couple of things that kept me to listen to it. The first thing he said was, we'll do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure. And I went, okay, because that's kind of how I drank and drug. I was going after some pleasure, or I was trying to avoid pain. So that made sense to me. And then, but what really got me, he said, the driving force in our life is we're motivated how we make decisions out of inspiration or desperation. And I went, okay, well, I'm pretty desperate. So let me buy this thing. Broke out my American Express card, ordered the program, and they sent it to me. Came in a big old box, and it was a 30-day program. So you had to listen to a tape every day. And when I say tape, it came on these little white things called cassette tapes.
Cassettes, yes.
Right? Some of your listeners are not even going to have any idea what a cassette tape is. Go to the Smithsonian. They're there. They're right next to reel and 8-track tapes. So I went through the program. I did what the man taught me to do, and it worked. Well, one of my dear friends in AA was watching me really closely, and he's listening to me. And I'm also, all of a sudden now I'm kind of repeating what I'm learning from Tony Robbins, right?
You're
and
integrating. You're
right. I'm talking encouragement and motivation, and I started working out. I started losing weight. I got out of the bad marriage that I was in. And so one of my buddies came to me one day and he goes, hey man, what's going on with you? Why are you so motivated? And I go, well, I've been listening to this guy named Tony Robbins. And he goes, hey, I know who Tony Robbins is. I bought his book. He goes, but I never read it. I go, yeah, what a concept, right? I go, well, look, I've gone through the program. If you promise me that you'll listen to it, I'll loan it to you. And he goes, I promise. And so I loaned it to him. Now, this is all going on in 1988, 1989. Well, 7 years later, 1995, my phone rings, and it's Dan. It's my buddy. And he's like, hey, man, did you know that Tony Robbins is coming to town live for an event? I said, no, I had no clue. He goes, oh, dude, come on. You got to go with me. You got me into this. Come on, go with me. Well, when's the event? Well, it's on such and such a date. My calendar. I'm like, okay, I can go. And he goes, fantastic. He goes, look, man, I'll go make arrangements. Let me call you right back. He calls me like an hour later and he goes, done. We pick up the tickets at will call, and here's what they told us to do. Number one, drink a lot of water throughout this 4-day weekend. You got to stay hydrated. Really important. Number two, bring snacks because we're going to spend a lot of time in the room. Oh my gosh. What a, right? Anybody that's been to a Tony Robbins seminar knows they're laughing too. Because,
exhausting.
He's insane, right? Yeah. And then he said, bring a good attitude and be ready to play full out. And I said, Dan, how much was the ticket? He said, $695. And I'm like, $700? Right? And this is in 95. So what's that equate to today? 7.2 million? I mean, I don't know. Buy Bitcoin with it. As he's telling me all this, right? And then it's just before he gets off the phone, he goes, oh, wait, by the way, I forgot to tell you the most important part. We're going to be doing a FireWalk. And I remember thinking, oh, hell no. I don't even know what a firewalk is. I have no idea what it means, but I'm saying no. Ain't going to do it. But I'm not saying any of this to Dan, right? I'm kind of going along with Dan. I'm going, yeah, sure. Yeah, sounds interesting. And all right, Dan, see you then. I hang up the phone and go, nope, we're not doing that. I want to see Tony. I got no problem with that. But, I'll just go watch those
You'll
people,
just back out, you'll go.
Doing it.
Yeah.
I'm just not. Fear is controlling everything in my life at this point anyway, Julie.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just fear, taking all kinds of things from me in my life. Well, the big day comes. And so there we go. And Tony takes the stage at 2:00 in the afternoon. And the next thing I know, it's after midnight.
Yeah. I can't wait. Yep.
10 hours I've been in a room with 3,500 other people with Tony Robbins, right? Bring snacks, right? Remember that part? Because you'll starve to death.
Right,
so,
right.
And all of a sudden, Tony goes, take your shoes off. And I'm like, oh, no. I see where you're going with that, pal. You're not going to trick me. I ain't falling for that one. Well, the problem I've got, my dilemma is I'm in a room with 3,500 people. Guess what they're doing?
Taking their shoes off.
They're taking their shoes off. And I'm like, people, no, don't fall for it. He's tricking you. Don't go towards the light.
In the meantime, you do small groups and you guys probably rubbed each other's backs. And,
well, we did all that.
High-fived
right?
a million times. So you're bonding with these people.
Oh, yeah. He's got you doing all that.
Yeah.
Well, then he's just getting ready to go out there. You know this. He gets you to start chanting and clapping, right? You're walking out there going, yes, yes, yes. And I'm walking out there going, no, I ain't doing it. And so when it came time to take my shoes off, I got 3,500 people taking their shoes off. What are you going to do, Dave? What are you not going to take them off and go out there and everybody go, hey, look at the guy over there that won't take his shoes off. He's a coward. I'm like having this conversation with myself going, chill out, relax, just take your shoes off. And when you get out there, just go hide in the back.
Or just go around,
No one's going to know. How's anybody going to know? Right? Well, other than me, I'm going to know.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you get out there, as you know, it gets worse. He's got African drummers, right? Dun, 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 dun. You're walking out there clapping and the drums are going, and what a dog and pony show this is, right? Well, over in the corner of this giant parking lot where you facilitate a firewalk for 3,500 people, there's a giant fire. It's huge. It's 35 feet wide and it's 70 feet long. And they've been adding wood to this thing all day, several cords of wood. I don't even know how many. And by the time it gets around to midnight, it's rendered. So it's got this big, giant, beautiful pile of coals. They're gorgeous. There's a blue flame. I mean, it's beautiful. So how do you firewalk 3,500 people logistically? Well, you take wheelbarrows over to that big pit and you load the coals into wheelbarrows. And then you take a wheelbarrow and you pull it in and you put it in between two lanes of sod, of grass.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 3 feet wide, 15, 18 feet long. And they just take a shovel. They sprinkle those coals on top of the grass. And that's what you walk on, right? Well, I'm having none of it. Where am I? All the way at the back. I'm hiding out. Well, Tony Robbins knows that this is probably one of the most life-changing experiences any human will go through. The paradigm shift is there. And he doesn't want you to miss out on it. He also knows there's people like me who are cowards and we're hiding in the back. So what's he do? He trains people to come find you. Right? And sure enough, I'm hiding out in the back. And all of a sudden, here comes this guy out of nowhere. He probably gets, and he locks eyes with me. I'm pretty sure Robbins teaches him, hey, when you make eye contact with these people, don't take your eyes off them, right? Oh, he's looking at me, he gets maybe 20 feet from me, and he kind of looks at me with a funny look on his face, and he's twisting his head like a dog that hears a funny noise, right? And he says, hey, man, are you okay? And when we're not okay, what do we say?
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm good.
Oh, yeah, I'm good, man. No worries here, man. Move along. Nothing to see here, pal.
Yeah, I'll see you
And,
up there. I'll be up there in a minute.
yeah, right. No, I wasn't even saying that. I was like, no, get away from me, right? I want nothing to do with you. And all of a sudden, the guy goes, hey, man, are you going to walk tonight? And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, what? You didn't get the memo? Are you kidding me? I want nothing to do with this. And then, you know what's interesting, Julie? This is a perfect stranger. I don't know who this guy is to this day. But without him, I wouldn't have been part of firewalking 500,000 people. I certainly wouldn't be on the Life of Joy and Love podcast right now. And this guy doesn't even know. He has no idea. Because the question he asked me was, well, wouldn't you at least like to watch? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with that. Sure, let's go watch these people burn their feet off. That'll be entertaining. Yeah, let's do that. Well, he says, look, you can't see anything from where you are. I'm 100 yards away. I can't see anything. I can hear it, right? They're clapping. They're chanting. The drums are going. People are already firewalking. They're screaming and yelling in the celebration end of the firewalk. It's unlike anything you've ever experienced in your life. But I can't see anything. And so he says, well, look, just get in line. Eventually, you'll get up there. You'll be able to see it. And so, yeah, all right. He's correct. He's telling the truth. He's not, in his defense, he's absolutely telling the truth. So I did. I got in line. And I'm kind of walking along, trudging along. People are screaming and yelling. They're celebrating. Their drums are going. People are clapping. I mean, it's, what a dog and pony show. And all of a sudden, this guy comes up to me and he whispers in my ear. And he said, he knows when you're ready. When he says go, you go. And this guy just disappeared into the night. And I'm like, what was that? What was that about? Who was that? And so now I'm kind of walking along, trudging along. I can't see in front of me. I've got 1,000 people in front of me. Can't see anything. I can hear it. But I get to a point I can see it at an angle. And they're doing it. Every race, every creed, every color, they're firewalking. And so now my brain's going, why? Why would they do that? Metaphorically, what's going on here? This is insane. And now I'm mesmerized. I can't take my eyes off it, right? I'm just like, I'm in a trance and I'm staring at it. Like, it's like a car accident, right? You're not supposed to look at it, but you won't stop looking at it. Well, that's kind of how I am. And I'm staring at this and I'm watching and I'm watching and all of a sudden, boom, guess where I am? Front of the line. And all of a sudden I look down and that lane, it's 3 feet wide. It's 15, 18 feet long. And the coals are laying on that grass and they're bright red. I mean, you can tell that they're hot, right? Well, the wheelbarrow's right there too. And I could feel the heat coming off of that thing. Well, as I'm staring into the abyss here, there's a trainer standing there. And all of a sudden the trainer goes, eyes up. Oh, that's right. Oh, okay. And so now my eyes are up. Well, guess what Tony teaches you when you're in the room for 10 hours? When you get out there, don't stare at what you fear. Look to the celebration end. That's where the gift is. And so I guess I'm a slow learner. And so now my eyes are up and the trainer goes, squeeze your fist and say yes. And I went, yes. And he went, stronger. And I went, yes. And what he could tell that I was not in a peak state. He could tell I was leaving a lot on the table. And so he screamed at me. And so now I'm like ticked off, right? And I threw my hands in the air and I said, yes. And he goes, go, go, go. And I took off, right? Remember the guy comes up, he said, he knows when you're ready. When he says go, you go. I did. Well, Tony stages 2 people at the end of the fire lane and they hold arms and they catch you. And they yell in your ear, stop, wipe your feet and celebrate. And so, I'm wiping my feet and I'm celebrating. And all of a sudden I realize I burnt myself really, really bad. And all of a sudden I look at my foot. It's dirty, but there's no burns. Oh, it's my other foot. Same thing. It's filthy dirty, but there's no burns. And so one of the first things I learned about firewalking, when you take that first step, oh, you'll take the second, third, fourth, and fifth, right? You don't stop on the fire lane. Well, now I'm celebrating. I'm down there with 3,000 people. We're all jumping up and down. And at that moment of my life, I felt like I'd accomplished anything. I'm like, where's the bus? Let's go to Everest. Let's go climb that bad boy, right?
Right.
And everybody's just, it's exhilarating, right? It's one of the most magical moments of my entire life. Because again, I just felt high that, that my self-worth, my self-esteem, my self-confidence had been leveled up. And so my frequency, along with everybody else, is just vibrant. But here's where it got really interesting for me, was the next day, right? This is day one. This is a 4-day event. That was day one, the night of. Now we're on day 2. And I'm standing in the foyer, getting ready to go into the venue. It didn't seem to me that anybody was late that next morning. Interesting, right? So we're all standing there and I'm watching them, Julie. And I'm like, what is going on? Look at this. I'm watching their people. They're hugging. They're laughing. They're crying. They're talking intensely. I mean, they're communicating humanistically, unlike anything I've ever seen or witnessed in my life. And I've never seen anything like it other than a Tony Robbins seminar. It was just beautiful. It was magical. It was absolutely gorgeous. And so later in the event, I met one of Tony's trainers, a guy by the name of Ted Macy. Super, super sweet guy. In fact, him and his wife, Mary, were both trainers for Tony back in the day. And so I'm just talking to him and I made a comment. I was like, man, this must be really awesome to be able to come back and be in this environment on a regular basis. And he goes, oh, yeah, I get to come do this 8-10 times a year. And he goes, as a matter of fact, you see all those people standing over there with the black shirts and the pink writing on the back? Yeah. He goes, they're all volunteers, man. They're just like you. They came, did a FireWalk, and now they want to come back and give back to the community. He said, so when you get home, just call Robbins Research, tell them you'd like to get a volunteer crew application, and who knows? We'll see what happens. Well, I did. And they sent me the application. I sent it back in. And like 9 weeks later, I get a letter in the mail. And it says, Dave Albin, congratulations. You've been selected to crew with the Anthony Robbins companies in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Well, guess what? My foot's in the door. Well, when you fill out the application, it's several pages long, so they know a lot about you. And that helps them place you within that volunteer crew lineup. And I was living on a farm, so they're like, well, I bet he knows how to use a log splitter, and he knows how to use tools, and he could drive a tractor. Let's put him on the fire team, which is exactly what I wanted. And then because I had a military background and a security background, they added me to the security team to help take care of Tony's celebrities. Well, but I'm a volunteer, right? So it's costing me a couple $1,000 every time I want to go to an event. I got to pay my airfare. I got to pay for my hotel. I got to pay all my travel expenses, my food, all of it. So I'm spending a couple $1,000 every time I volunteer. Well, my wife at the time, she doesn't know who Tony Robbins is. She hasn't gone through the program. She doesn't know a live event. All she knows is her husband spending a couple $1,000 every time he wants to go. And she's kind of like over it. Well, so it was sometime in 1996, they offered me a subcontractor's position. They said, well, we're going to put you on the security team. We'll pay your airfare, your hotel. We'll give you a per diem, and we'll cover all your costs. And I'm like, okay, cool. I like my life. My wife will definitely like that, though I'm gone for 4 days at a time, which she didn't necessarily like. But they gave me a free ticket. They comped me a ticket for UPW. And so I said, here, Stace, come with me. Come to the event. And she did. And after she graduated, we were walking on the beach that night, and she goes, okay, I get it. I'm good. You want to go with this guy? You want to run with this Tony Robbins guy? You go after it. I'm good. No problem. So this was all happening in 96 and 97. And then in 2003, we're at Date with Destiny in the Bahamas. And I got called into Tony's office. He wanted to talk to me. And the next thing I know, I'm being offered the captain's position. He wanted me to take over all of his firewalks globally. And I originally said, I can't. Well, what do you mean you can't? You can't or you won't? I tell Tony Robbins, no, it doesn't go
Yeah, I
over
was going
very
to say, that's like,
well. Hold it. What's going on, right? And I said, well, I homeschool my kids. I can't do that. I can't be away from them. I'm part of their education. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, we kind of missed that. Well, what if we pay to have your kids go on the road with us and your wife? Would that make a difference? Well, you could. Well, in fact, what was funny is that there was a woman that worked for Tony inside the office. And my wife got to know this person. And they went on a retreat, a woman's retreat, a goddess retreat, it was called.
oh,
And
nice.
so when I'm in being talking to Tony, she called my wife and said, hey, listen, don't tell David I told you this, but he's in talking to Tony right now and they're offering him the captain's position. So just you expect a call from me. And so after they talked to me, I said, can I call home? And they said, of course. So I called home. And so now she's telling my kids, which at this point now I've got a son that's 9 years old. My daughter's like, no, I think David was probably 7 or 8 at that point. Anyway, so I called home and he answers the phone because mom's told him, hey, your dad's going to call because probably this job with Tony Robbins. And so he answers the phone. He's like, hello. I said, hey, Davey, how you doing? He goes, I'm doing really good, Dad. How are you doing? Right? Because he knows what's going on, right? And so I said, well, hey, I just came out of a meeting and, they want me to take over all of Tony's FireWalks. And I'm just calling to see what you guys think about that. And Davey's like, you think, Dad? And immediately he goes, so where's our first event? And I said, Sydney, Australia.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
right. So there's my homeschool kids, and we're on the road with Tony
Yeah.
Robbins. Their first
They're not going
event
to
in
learn anything more than that in school,
being
that's for
on the
sure.
road, traveling the world. Yeah,
Yeah.
they did learn a little bit, that's for sure.
Mhm.
So that happened in 03. In 05, we went to London and we set the world record. We firewalked 12,300 people. And so that was a pretty magical, event. Oh, by the way, let me disclose that when I
Mhm.
say a world record, Guinness Book was not there. However, to my knowledge, there's never been a firewalk of 12,300 people
Wow.
anywhere in the world. The only thing that would come anywhere close to that would be another Tony Robbins seminar. So that all went down. That was in 05. And then in 2014, I'm driving down the road. The next thing I know, my phone rings and it's a company called Google. And they want to know, are you the Dave Albin that does the firewalks for Tony Robbins? Yes, I am. What can I do for you? And they said, well, if you're not under any contractual obligation or non-compete, we'd like to talk to you about hiring you to do something for us here at Google in Mountain View, California. I'm like, well, homeboy's a free agent. I can do whatever I want. What you got going on? So they went on to tell me that they had a graduation, and it was a 9-month curriculum that these executives had gone through. There were 148 of them, and they wanted to do a firewalk after lunch and after the graduation in the middle of the day. And I said, well, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but I won't do a firewalk in the middle of the day. I need to be able to see those coals. And I can regulate them with hitting with a shovel. And what I'm telling you is it's a safety issue, and I won't do it during the middle of the day. Tell you what we could do is that we could do a glass walk. And they're like, glass walk? Ooh, tell us about that. And so we ended up scheduling the glass walk. I ended up doing 2 glass walks for Google. And when I was there at lunch, we were sitting at a round table, and it was about 6 of us, I think, sitting at the table. And one of the executives, this gal, she starts talking to me, and she said, I don't know if you know this or not, but there's a huge marketplace for you. It's huge because you're creating a paradigm shift. This is like the ultimate corporate team building experience on earth. And that's why we sought you out. And so I'm like, okay. She said, look, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just saying you might want to think about the opportunity there, is how she left it. And
She put a
that's,
seed there.
yeah,
She put a little seed.
yeah, she planted a seed. And that's when FireWalk Productions was born. And the next thing I know, and I obviously I had to go back to Tony and say, hey, after the event, hey, I need to talk to you. And And I met with him, at the end of the event, and I said, I need to talk. And he goes, "You're leaving, aren't you?" And I said, "Tony, you don't need me anymore. I've been with you for almost 20 years. There's 4 or 5
Mm.
people out there in that parking lot on that fire team that can do my job. You're in good hands. You're going to be fine." And so we laughed and
Mm.
cried and talked about all the people and things that we had done, and being together at 9/11, and it was really a magical moment. And at the end, basically what he said to me: "With great wisdom comes great responsibility. Make me proud."
Mm.
And then the next thing I know, I'm at NASA. The next thing I know, I'm at Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, Remax,
Mm.
Chick-fil-A, Heineken, Microsoft, YMCA, the EO organization, the Entrepreneurs
Yeah.
Organization. I'm talking at high schools, at career days. Again, the next thing I know, I'm on the Life of Love and Joy, podcast. So, I didn't know. You just don't know where you're going to end up.
You don't know what insomnia at 3 o'clock in the morning, but making an impulse buy could lead you to.
Yeah. Or some guy coming
Well,
up to you and saying, "Hey, are you okay?" "No." "Yeah, yeah, no,
no.
I'm fine. Yeah, great." "Hey, you gonna walk tonight?" "No." "Yeah, well, wouldn't you at least like to watch?" "Yeah." "Okay." And again, now my career with Tony and what I've done since, leaving Tony's organization in 2014, we've walked 500,000 people. And so, my kids were really young, their first firewalk. My daughter was 6 years old. My son was 9. We were in New York, and I knew they wanted to walk. And so I put them with one of Tony's trainers,
Mhm.
Vicky St. George, and she spent like an hour with them, got them ready. And then we did the firewalk that night. And once all the participants walked, they were standing right over there in the shadows, right? And so Tony knew where they were, and he waved them over. And here comes my daughter, 6 years old, doop, 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 no fear, at
Mhm.
6 years old, right? And it was a beautiful moment. It was
Mm.
Tony took her by the hand, I took her by the
Mhm.
hand, and we walked her, and um, just such a beautiful moment. And then my son stepped up, and he was about 9 at the time,
Mm.
and Tony turns to him and he goes, "I love you and I love your daddy. Go." And Davey, he firewalked.
Mm.
Um, and so again, that's when FireWalk Productions was born, and all those other companies pursued. And no pun intended. Well, maybe a little, but we've been going hot and heavy ever since.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I just my curiosity is dying here. I would love to know, is there a difference between when you do like a Tony Robbins, like people who sign up for the conference,
Yeah.
and when you go to big corporations? Um, or is it everyone's the same when it gets to be the firework time?
Well, the experience in and of itself is pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
You get people in a peak state, and you prepare them, and you get them across the fire. The one thing that I did that leveled the whole process up is I incorporated the board break with the firewalk. So what we do there, board breaks are used in
Mm.
dojos and martial arts studios all over the country, right? And so to move from a white belt to a yellow belt, they do a board break. They break it with their hand or their elbow or their knee or their foot or whatever. So what I did was I took the board break experience and I have them write on the board. So the first thing I have them write is something they want to move towards. And then I have them write on the back of the board something they need to move away from. And then I have them write anybody's name that they're in conflict with. So, in other words, if forgiveness or reconciliation is part of that relationship, it ends tonight. Stop
Mm.
carrying that around with you. That's just, you know, what do they say? When you're mad at somebody, it's like drinking poison, to try to kill the other
Mm-hmm.
person. Right? It's very true. And then to create the rite of passage, I have them write anybody's name on the board that they've lost. So then we go outside. We have the stations set up for the board break. They break the board. We get everybody to cheer everybody else on when they're doing, screaming and yelling. I make them act like kids and cheer, everybody on with the board break. And then we do the FireWalk, and then they come back and they add their board to the fire. And we get all that on video, and we get, pictures. So they have that. And then I do what's called the heart hug. And so what we do there is I put everybody in a circle after the FireWalk, and I have them look across the circle and make eye contact with somebody. And then once you've made eye contact, go over to that person and stand about 2 feet in front of them. And then I have them embrace. I have them hug, and I have them hug the opposite way that we normally do. In other words, so my heart would be on your heart, right? And then I have them close their eyes, relaxed, and I have them take a nice deep cleansing breath in and hold it. And then I have them exhale, and I have them do that 3 times. And when they're going into or coming out of that third diaphragmic breath, something really magical happens. Their hearts calibrate. They start beating at the same time. And then after that, I have them step back and I have them say some things. It's not really proprietary, but I'm the only one out there that has devised this and created this part. And then I'll have them do that maybe 5 or 6 times so that I can get pretty much everybody's heart to calibrate at the same time. So that creates what I truly say all the time, definitely one of the most life-changing paradigm shift, magical experiences any human will ever go through. In fact, just last week,
Dave, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
It's ceremony. Magic. It's a tribal
Yes.
ceremony,
yes.
And it's bonding. And then, there's so many spiritual things going on with the hearts connecting when you're in that bonded endorphin state, and then you connect with another being with the heart. I mean, to me, you're opening up portals of light. Like, I don't know if you've ever thought of that, but that ceremony and putting hearts together in unconditional love and acceptance it's huge, and our world needs it. And I can only imagine, like, if a family had a tragedy, or there's some things that just need to be forgiven and moved on, and what you described would be quite a healing thing. And even if someone couldn't do a FireWalk, just going through those motions of forgiveness and where you want to be and where you've been, it's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
I just came back from MIT in Boston. I've done a couple of gigs up there, and we just did a gig for a really awesome company called COO Alliance. And basically who these guys are, they deal with the second in command of companies, right? So the CFO or the COO. They don't deal with CEOs. They only deal in the second in command. So we had 60 plus of them. And I can just tell you, it was unbelievable. These guys had a great time. It was magical. They played full out. And, then when I said goodnight, I lost count how many of them came up to me and said, I need your card. We need this.
We don't get to play. We don't get to be in that state. And rites of passage have been totally minimized, and we're so busy producing, we don't have rites of passage, and we don't connect to our hearts enough.
Nope.
So it's I love it.
I had a call from one of them. He immediately came up to me after, because I'm hiring you. We got an event coming up in February. We want to do this. I got 125 people I'm bringing into right outside of Dallas. And I called him. We had a conversation this morning. Right? So they're cool. They want to book it for February 29th. And I said, well, what's interesting about that's leap year, and that's the year Tony Robbins was born. Tony was born on leap year.
I love it.
So it was kind of hilarious.
Well, so it's a legacy.
You made a really great point and distinction about the rite of passage. We don't do that for kids anymore.
No.
We beat them up in school. They're getting their butts kicked.
And they get a diploma, and then we expect them to go and get higher education, and then they're supposed to have a mortgage, and it's like, at some point we have to stop and say, what, celebrate where we are, and and that beautiful
Well,
moment with your children. You're going to laugh. I have a friend, we like to go hiking and we get weird. Like we'll hug trees and, we get weird. And we were leaving, I was leaving to meet her. I was running late and I was like, no, I got to go get my drum. And I grabbed my drum. It was sitting next to my piano. And I'm like, we're going to drum because life's been crappy for her
drum
lately.
circles. Yeah.
And we're just going to drum. And it's so funny because we're at the base of this mountain near my house and we're just drumming and singing and
Nice.
like the world lit up around us. And I think it's okay to be weird. Like we need permission.
Well, you know what let me tell you what I find weird. That we even think that's weird. Because to me, it's not weird at all. You're connecting with vibration. You're connecting with frequency. You're out there within the energy. We know grounding works. Take your shoes off. Go stand on the earth. Let it pull the negative ions out of your body. It's a.
Oh my gosh, we're to the end of our time, and I promised I'd watch it for us.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for sharing this time,
Sure.
and
My pleasure.
And I say this quite a bit, but I truly mean it. I can't wait to get this out and share it, and
thank you.
For your kids to listen and future grandkids, and
absolutely
really excited.
Well,
really
cool.
excited for this. And thank you for shining the light in your way. And it takes a village for all of us to help elevate and change things. And we're on 100%, our way.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. And continue to be on fire. I'll be cheering for you.
We'll keep the fire burning for you and all who want to come into the environment. Absolutely.
Yeah, light it up.
We'll light it up.
Light it up. All right. All the best to you, Dave. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks, Julie. Appreciate you having me on your show.